So on to another report that came across my desk. So this came across my desk thanks to Anne-Marie Blake, who shared it in my CIPR Inside Committee chat group. And it's a report from Oak Engage. And the headline is "The Credibility Gap in Internal Comms is Despite High Professional Esteem." So Oak Engage ran a survey of 250 HR and internal comms professionals across the UK in the last week of February. The report was published this early May as we're recording. And she quotes from the InComms article that featured the report, where it says a significant number, 60%, lack the insight to determine whether their messages are reaching or influencing employees. More than half stated that poor communication wastes 1 to 2 hours per employee each week. Anne-Marie goes on to say, here we are in 2026 having the same conversation about internal comms measurement. There is so much out there to help IC demonstrate the value of your work beyond hits and clicks. I felt her frustration in that post and thought I'd just bring the conversation into here. So a little bit more from the report, less than I shared from the IC index. But what does the report say? So it says internal comms is valued but not fully embedded, measurable or optimized in the way it needs to be. 94% say internal comms is respected. Only 30% can demonstrate business impact. 48% say that they act as a strategic advisor. 60% lack visibility into whether comms are reaching or influencing employees. 66% rely heavily on manager-led comms cascades. They call out the need to shift from outputs to outcomes. And in the report, there's a nice table for comms activity, business metric and outcome if you need to get started. And there's a quote in there which says, closing the credibility gap is a continuous journey that depends on building trust, embedding meaningful relationships and consistently demonstrating value through insight and action. Now, if you would like to know more about credibility and how to close that gap, then do let me know, because I have a whole framework on it for leaders and comms people, and it is the biggest gap. So my question for you, Chuck, is what is getting in the way of this change happening? Because as Anne-Marie has said, here we are again in 2026 having the same conversation. What's getting in the way of change?
Well, it's funny because I was going to give you a little kudo here as a credibility expert, but you just did it yourself. You gave your own kudo.
Yeah, do it.
I'm gonna come back to a question to you, Jenni. Define or give me the context of the difference between respect and credibility. How are the two related? How are the two not related?
So I can, so if I find you credible, I'm going to follow you and believe you. That's the outcome we want from credibility. Now I can respect you, but I cannot follow you. So that's a different, it's a different outcome. So I can be like, I completely respect your point of view, your expertise, all of those things, but I'm still going to go over here. Like, and I think that's the difference, is it doesn't encourage that followership. And that's why credibility is complex. So when people say, oh, just be more credible, or credibility is what someone says when you're not in the room, there's a lot of layers to credibility around trust, empathy, likability, all that stuff. So yeah, that's the distinction. It's the outcome of the followership that you're looking for.
Can you be credible and not respected?
So do you know what? We had this debate on a Calm Edged Rebels podcast that I used to do with Trudy Lewis and Advita Patel when I did my research. And I think it was Advita was saying, I would respect you first, and then I would find you credible. And I was like, oh, I think you were credible, and then I might learn to respect you. So we had quite the debate in terms of what comes first. And I think that comes down to your own values, lived experience and stuff.
Yeah, because to me, part of this, there's something about this, I guess the math isn't mathing in some way. And that's what I was trying to figure out, is that we hear the sentiment seems to say one thing, but then this data is saying something else, where the sentiment is that we I would say collective we read here that internal comms feels so disrespected in industries, but yet in a survey of ourselves, I guess it's internal comms and HR, we're saying it is respected. So which is it? When we said we don't feel respected, or were we really saying we don't feel credible? That's what I was trying to understand the difference on that. Because then if only 30% can demonstrate impact, then you're not going to be credible. Like people are going to question, maybe that's the wrong word. Let me take that back. You're not credible. People are going to question your credibility if you can't generate impact. It doesn't mean you're not credible. It means they're going to probably question the credibility. And if only half are saying they act as a strategic advisor, that might bring that number down a little bit more. So things just feel very fluid. I don't know if this is because it's a survey of ourselves that we're saying this thing versus the past survey, which was of employees. I would love to know from the employee side what it is. And there was another data point. More than half stated poor communication wastes 1 to 2 hours per employee each week. I would love to know what poor means here versus no communication. How much does no communication waste? Is it less than 1 to 2? Is it more than 1 to 2? I have a feeling it'd be more than 1 to 2 hours are wasted. So poor is better than none. So how do we elevate that? How do we grow that? That's our job. That's our role.
So a bit like you, when I was reading this, I was confused by the stats and the data because the math is not mathing, to use your point. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said maybe it's because this is a survey of ourselves. So it's a survey of internal comms and HR people talking about their profession. And I think we need to probably stop doing this because I'm not sure how helpful that data and insight is around this, because 94% say internal comms is respected. And my question is, what does that look like? So, what was the question? Do you feel respect? I don't know, but that's really high. I feel respected. Yet only 30% can demonstrate a business impact. Well, that doesn't make sense, because to you to be truly respected as a function, you would be having an impact. But 70% of people can't demonstrate any kind of business impact, but 94% feel respected. Only 48% are a strategic advisor. So this is making me think, are we feeling respected in our ability to post content on an intranet and send out emails? Because we're definitely not being respected as a strategic advisor and something that is linked to organizational performance and advising leaders and culture. And that says everything about the state of internal comms as a profession at the moment. And this is my issue with, is it internal comms? Is it organizational comms? And actually, this survey to me is almost saying it's all about the content and the channels. It's not about the strategic advice.
And I wonder too, because I did the quick math in my head, of this 250 people, that means roughly 235, give or take, are saying internal comms is respected. It's the other 15, give or take, that are saying it is not. And I wonder, is that the effort of comms, or is it the people? Or are the two connected, or are the two separate? If you say, oh, my internal comms team is respected, but we hate what they do. We love what they do, but we don't like the team. Like, what does internal comms mean here? I think it's a great discussion, but I guess, and this goes where I was going to give you credit, which you gave yourself around credibility. Is this really what communicators and HR leaders should be focused on?
Yeah. It's exactly that. And it's respect is like credibility. It's a perception. It's a feeling. So if you said, do you feel respected? Well, yes. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what would be happening if I don't.
That goes to where I was.
My function, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
if we ask leaders, are you trusted? Be like, well, obviously, of course.
Yes.
Of course we're trusted. Of course we are.
Yeah, I'm bloody great. Absolutely. I know. So, okay, that's enough of reports now. I'll move on to some LinkedIn posts so we can just calm down.